Hello and welcome to Freedom Through Astrology, where we're giving you the keys to having a successful week, ideally, and life. It's freedomthroughastrology.com. I'm your astrologer. My name is Donald Patak. There's my contact information and standard YouTube copyright. I really need a theme song. Keys to the reading, because I do read astrology differently, and I think it's good to have people aware of how I read. First of all, I use constellation-based astrology, sometimes called true sidereal astrology. Simply put, it's astrology by the visible sky. In ancient times, astrologers were also astronomers. So if you took what I said and you take what I said and went to an astronomer and say, hey, is Jupiter really in Gemini, or the sun really in Gemini right now? They would say, absolutely, it is in Gemini. Versus tropical astrology, which fixed the signs to seasons way back in 220 something AD. Tropical astrology is about 25 degrees out of alignment with the visible sky and just getting wider. And using the visible sky, it means I also use 13 signs, because in the zodiac belt between Scorpio and Sagittarius, there is this gap. What is that gap? Ophiuchus. Really, it's the 9th sign, not the 13th. But so I do have the missing sign of Ophiuchus. It's the sign of the wounded healer. The symbol is of a man holding a snake by the head and the tail. Really interesting. Here is in the ancient times, the snake was a symbol of knowledge. Holding it by the head and the tail means you had control or use of knowledge. Ophiuchus used it to heal himself and then ideally to heal others with similar wounds. That's the ideal. I use the natural size of the signs because Virgo is huge at just under 50 degrees, but Aries, Cancer, Libra, Scorpio, Ophiuchus, individually, each of them are less than 25 degrees. The 5 of them together barely make 125. So Mother Nature, in her wisdom, made all the constellations different sizes. I leave them that way. And with that, I use astrological midpoints. The IAU boundaries are arbitrarily drawn. And Athan Shimenti, in his work, as he was zooming in on the Ophiuchus Scorpio border, he was curious what stars were there, and he noticed that the stars from Scorpio were in Ophiuchus. And he said, that just doesn't work. So using the zodiac belt, last bright stars of Scorpio, first bright stars of Ophiuchus, came up with the midpoint, and then did that through the rest of the zodiac. So my midpoints, my season changes are going to be just a little bit different, but that's part of the reason why, and it works better for me. Keys to the reading, part 2. I read evolutionary astrology, which says all these transits that I'm reading are lessons to learn, and you have freedom of choice. You are fated to face these transits, but how you do so is up to you, and the outcomes will be based on your decisions. These are weekly lessons, so these are universal lessons for all our fellow earthlings. Please have compassion on your fellow ground pounders. Dates are based on the Eastern U.S. time zone, as I'm just outside of Buffalo, New York. I'm operating within 1 degree of exact to make the readings manageable. And software is Capricorn by Prometheus. There was something else I was going to say. When I remember it, I will write it down. And yes, this heat is back. So these are the weekly transits for the week of June 23rd through 29th, 2025. The sun is currently in Gemini, still in early Gemini at that. The moon begins the week in Taurus and will end the week in Leo. So it is actually relatively steady with Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and then Leo. So it's actually a fairly steady moon this week. And we do have the new moon on the 25th in Gemini. And that happens at 5:20 in the morning. So most of you will still be asleep. That's my second to last day teaching before summer school starts. We do have 2 sign changes this week. Mercury enters Cancer and Venus enters Taurus. So there's going to be some energy that way. The active planets on the inner planets in this order: Mercury, very active this week, as well as the sun. Mercury's learning communication, the sun, your core identity, and Venus, relationships, amongst other things. And in the outer planets, Jupiter, opportunity, Saturn, maturity, Neptune, spirituality, and Pluto, transformation. all of those will be active, either in transiting each other or being transited. Our power transits, we're still living under that Saturn-Neptune conjunction, and we will be finishing up the Saturn, Jupiter, and Neptune squares, I believe. Yeah. So those will be finishing up. And we do have in retrograde, Pluto is our only planet in retrograde at this point in time. Hold on a second. And that, do not disturb. Bad enough I have the washing machine going. I don't need the phone disturbing me. So this is our week in an overview. Let me get this out of the way and put this over here. And as you can see, the beginning of the week, we do have those endings and just a few transits. Everything above the line is from last week. Everything below the line is for this week. So at the beginning of the week is a little bit more challenging because we're finishing up those squares. And we do have that one super long transit, which will be going on like the Energizer Bunny-ish. But we do have these new transitions, and the new transits start out slow and then just build into a crescendo and end up with the exclamation point of Neptune sextiling Pluto. So yeah, if this is the 800-pound gorilla, this is the elephant, and this is going to be the elephant in the room for a long time. So as you can see, at the beginning of the week, we'll be completing these squares and letting them go. So you'll be feeling some releases there. But in the newer transits, a lot of sextiles and trines. So that's easy energy to work with. Easier, and I do mean if you take the opportunities, greater opportunity for success. Trines make things a little bit easier for the outcomes. Sextiles are more excitement and interest. We do have that one square, which is strengthening, and we do have the conjunction, which is a combination of those energies. But as you can see, like I said, with the new transit, starts out slow and then it builds. We do have Mercury changing sign on Tuesday, the new moon Wednesday morning. That's at 5:20, as I had said. And on Friday, we do have Venus entering Taurus. So let us begin from the beginning. And we do have the Saturn and Neptune conjunction, which will be going on, like I said, for a very long time. It enters in June and it leaves in August, late August. That exact is with a double X because we will have Neptune going retrograde and I believe Saturn going retrograde. So when those do happen, I will modify the reading as such. But to give you the key basics of this, spiritual self-discipline is this in a nutshell. Focusing on your spiritual disciplines, your spiritual practices. Saturn is maturity. Neptune, don't just do something, be there. Be present. So it's learning that self-discipline, being present, being in the moment. Can't be anywhere else, so why not here now? And that gives you the insights, and especially insights from the higher realms, because Neptune is your spirituality. Whatever and however you practice, I'm not going to preach to your religion. That's however you practice and contact the divine, that's between you and them. Taking time to grow and develop your practices can help you actually mature and understand situations from a higher perspective. So this spiritual growth helps you understand and work with life better. Now the shadow here, because we do have an ideal and we do have what I call the shadow, Saturn can fall into frustration and various forms of anger, being a bit of a control freak, and Neptune can be deceptive, etc. This is religious legalism. If I were to give you a two-word description of it, religious legalism, where you're so busy trying to make up rules for everyone to follow, and you kind of fall apart. Or this is also slipping into fear or pessimism, etc. And just wanting to try to numb the pain and escape as well. Falling for hype can leave you lost in illusions and confusion, and ultimately you can feel isolated and drifting. And from Saturday, Jupiter and Gemini squaring Neptune in Pisces. This is, yeah, Jupiter is opportunity, and in Gemini, it's learning. So opportunity to learn about what spirituality, and if you're working on this properly, it strengthens you. So you're learning to be present, and in this moment, can actually strengthen you and help you gain those higher insights. Um, so yeah, so whatever you're learning and these opportunities to learn can strengthen your spiritual practices and your spiritual abilities. Squares, people get a negative image of squares. To me, squares are challenges and they're designed to strengthen you. So in the positive line, this is you're taking the opportunity to learn, strengthens your spirituality. In the shadow, the square becomes a crushing burden. And Jupiter is a crisis of confidence, and whether that's overconfidence or underconfidence. You think you know it all, or that you can't learn at all. Either which way, um, this ruins or crushes your ability to be present. You're not learning anything. And Neptune just like falls into this illusion and delusion and confusion. I don't know that I can come up with one more word that ends in that. And you can falling for what is superficial and shallow leaves you feeling empty. And on Thursday, Mars in Leo is sextiling Jupiter. So Mars, this is the courage to Mars is courage, and in Leo, you're learning to express yourself. So having the courage to express yourself. And what are you expressing? Things you're getting the opportunity to learn. So it's knowing what to share and when and how. And by doing so appropriately, you can be appreciated by others. Um, whoops. You want to close the window, you want to move up. And if you're doing it properly, people of similar interests will approach you. And so this is this could be an opportunity for you to find friends as well. But it is ultimately having the courage to speak up and be seen. And doing what? Sharing what you learn. In the shadow, Mars falls into fear, and that's the explosive anger. And in Leo, really explosive for everyone to see, or it's falling into fear and cowardice, and you're trying not to be seen. And why? Because of that crisis in confidence. You have that Jupiter know-it-all getting in arguments with people, or you don't think that you can learn, and you hear somebody talking, and he's like, "Oh, I think that person knows something." Like, "Oh, no, 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 you said everything I know," and really, yeah, you do know more, or you're not exercising the opportunity to learn and ask questions. So that fear can just ruin everything and ruin your ability to learn. From Saturday, Sun in Gemini squaring Saturn in Pisces. So the Sun in Gemini, or Sun, yeah, no, yeah, the Sun in Gemini, learning about yourself. And how is that square strengthening your ability to, mature and practice being present in the here and now? You can also all call that your spiritual maturity as well. It's conjunct Neptune, so that actually happens on Sunday, I believe. So I will tie that together. But just what are you learning is how is that helping you to mature and grow and be present? And the shadow here is the sun is that false ego, whether it's burning too bright or it's that dark star that refuses to shine. And that can be the know-it-all or doesn't want to learn or doesn't think it can learn. And Saturn in Pisces, I did talk about, is that negativity, pessimism, cynicism, and just wanting to escape. So here you have this know-it-all, and how do I get out of listening to these people I don't want to have to put up with? Versus having the strength to pay attention, you can actually learn something. So ego, in the shadow, ego issues cloud your understanding and lead to self-deception, feeling disconnected from who you are, and your height. Oh, that's Sunday. I'm sorry. Let me find the right one. Squaring Saturn, ego issues, self-deception, disconnected. Yeah. That just cripples your ability to mature and grow. And Sunday, Sun in Gemini, squaring Neptune, and again, That's the ego. This, and you can, let me say this. I call the sun your ego. You came here to learn to have a healthy ego. There's the healthy ego and the unhealthy ego. So the healthy ego being willing to learn. So, and depending on the house that this falls in, depends on what you're learning about. But the sun in the Gemini is healthy ego, willingness to learn, open up to learn, and the challenge with Neptune and Pisces, like I said, don't just do something, be there. So learning to be present and the challenge of being present, not racing in the future or shooting back into the past, but being present now in the moment. How can that square strengthen you? This is a strengthening experience, strengthening your ability to be in the here, in the now, and be amazed at the insights that actually come to you when you are present and in the moment. And what do I have in here to add to that? Oh, yeah, new information helps you understand yourself more deeply and gain a greater sense of self awareness and even awareness of your situations. And the shadow, those infamous ego issues that I spoke about, either burning too bright or not bright enough, not wanting to be seen, that know it all or can't learn. And Neptune and Pisces, as I spoke about before, self deception, trying to hide away, illusion, delusion, confusion. So, these ego issues cloud your understanding and you lead to self-deception, feeling disconnected from who you really are, also disconnected from your higher self. So ideally, this is you're learning about yourself and this is helping you connect to your spiritual higher self and getting a higher perspective and being present. In the shadow, this is being that know-it-all and it crushes that spirit, your spiritual ability, crushes your ability to be present and kind of just ruins stuff. And finally, on Sunday, Moon enters Taurus. Your emotional self is learning to calm down, let go of what stresses you out. Just let it be, let it go, and focus on calming yourself down, finding ways to have peace and quiet, and how you can restore yourself. The shadow, the moon is your emotional self, and in Taurus, it can become stubborn, rigid, and stuck in a rut. And whether that's stuck in a rut being lazy and unmotivated, or stuck in the rut of being a bull in the china shop, it just makes a mess. And you can feel like an animal caught in a cage or in a rage. And this leads us finally to the new week. Sun, identity, your core identity, conjunct Jupiter, taking the opportunity to Gemini, learn. And check to see what house this falls in, because that's ideally what you're learning about. So focus on your opportunity to learn. It can help you achieve your higher potentials about yourself and learn more about yourself and gain insights as to who you really are. In the shadow, Sun is the false ego, running into a crisis of confidence, either over or under. And this has you thinking that either you know it all or can't learn it all, and leave you settling for less than you deserve or desire. And this is you selling yourself short. Monday, we also have Mercury in Gemini squaring Chiron in Pisces. Mercury is winding up its Gemini transit here. So Mercury in Gemini is learning about communication and learning, and it's about you. Mercury is about learning in Gemini. It's about learning and communication. So what are you learning? How are you learning? And this is a challenge about, and how is this helping you to heal? How is what you're learning and communicating helping you to heal and release wounds? And by doing so, how is this strengthening you to what you're learning? How is that strengthening you to release those wounds? Yeah, that's kind of interesting because Mercury, I want to go into the next, is that tomorrow? Yeah. As Mercury moves into Cancer, we'll finish this transit up in Cancer. So this really should be Mercury in Gemini / Cancer. Um, how are you learning to heal? How that learning to heal releases wounds as well. So the shadow here is that being a know-it-all or can't learn it all, or just not listening, not paying attention. The challenge, the square here becomes a crushing burden. You're not healing. You're potentially deepening wounds, wounding yourself worse, or even wounding others. And that mental rigidness can shut down your ability to learn and your ability to heal. And it can be an endless rehashing or denial of your wounds as well. Sun in Gemini sextiling Mars in Leo. This will run all week. So, and I'm just going to keep it kind of simple with the Sun and Mars here. We do have the opportunity to learn about yourself, and the sextile is an excitement to express and share it. That's simple. That works. I can live with it. Because the sextile is an excitement or an interest. So what are you learning about yourself? And this is an excitement in you having the courage to share that with other people. And yeah, and take risks to being seen. And forming that accurate self-image can help you to give you the courage to step forth and be seen as well. Taking necessary risks. The shadow here is stepping into that false ego and that crisis of confidence that I spoke about. And that excitement becomes nervousness and jitters. And Mars and Leo, like I said, that falls into fear, and that could be that explosive anger. So it's that whatever crisis is in is just blowing up and exploding on people, or just shutting down in anger and not wanting to share it all, not wanting to be seen at all. Tuesday, Mercury enters Cancer. Mercury, the planet of learning, communication, and Cancer. Nurturing, self-care, healing in a sense. It is the crab, so you're also learning to protect yourself in a way. So the crab does have that shell. I know in the Latin and Greek, Cancer has a much better meaning, and we in modern times have just given it a negative term. But it is the crab. And if you think about crabs, they do have that shell, so that is protection. It's ruled by the moon, so it is nurturing and caring. So this is you learning to nurture for yourself, care for yourself, and protect yourself. Very important lessons to learn. Learn that and how you can communicate that as well, and communicate your needs. Yeah, and it's time to heal mental wounds and meet your mental needs and become more aware of how you can become more self-nurturing. Ideally, this lesson is you learning to take care of yourself. I'm reminded of my friends who work in the airline industry. They say when that mask drops down, the best, in turbulence, the best thing to do is put that mask on yourself first, and then you can help others. When you take care of yourself, you take care of your learning, then you can help other people. The shadow here, Mercury, is that know-it-all or can't learn, and it's endless talking, or you can't pry their mouth open. And in Cancer, Cancer, as the crab has that shell, it can pull away and try to be invisible. It has those claws defensively, taking swipes and snipes at people. Yes, I did have a former girlfriend, who was Italian, and she did teach me how to talk with my hands. She said if I wanted to, I could be a good Italian. I do like pasta. Back to this in any way. But the shadow here is becoming mentally defensive, trying to be invisible, and taking swipes. Whether the person deserves it or not, or things can be misunderstood and you take a defensive swipe at them, just not a good thing. And Tuesday, we also have the moon entering Gemini. Releasing, and the releasing part of this, before the new moon, you're releasing old ideas and old information. And when you're dealing with the moon, it's emotional stuff. So think about that emotional information, these emotional ideas, emotional insights, let them go. There's some things that need a little house clean that needs to be done so you can welcome the new. So it's time to release old, outdated information ideas so that new ones can come in. Listen to what's happening around you, pay for attention for ideas, and trust your feelings as well. They can be a helpful guide. The shadow here, being emotionally distracted and pulled in 20,000 directions, scattered, leaves you feeling confused and uninformed. And Wednesday morning, 5:20 a.m. And if you're central, you get to deal with the 4:20 jokes. Yeah, I went there. I had to. I've got a headache, and something that makes me laugh eases the pain. And the spotlight here, it's on Gemini. It's in Gemini. So the spotlight is your ego, your core ego, your self-identity, your healthy ego, and the moon, your emotional self. Both of them together are focused and united on learning. about who you really are and what your emotional needs are. And so focusing on that, especially what draws you in emotionally, can help in your healing and help you meet those emotional needs. Pay attention, especially the house, because that can be helpful for you. Always look to see where the houses are. And if you're not sure, contact me. We'll have a meeting. I'll draw up your birth chart and we can talk about that and help you understand that better. But help for you to focus your energy on what you need, what's good for you to learn about and focus your energies on. And knowing what to focus on helps you become more aware of those intellectual needs and your emotional needs. The shadow here, false ego, plus the moody self. And when I say moody, everybody thinks of that over the top person going out and drama king, drama queen type stuff. Moody can also be that person that shuts down and won't share. What's wrong? Nothing. Guys, we're all familiar with that. And ladies, you've all said that, I'm sure. But running through the motions, not focusing on anything and being distracted or disinterested, leaves you running in mental, emotional circles. Life can become predictable and boring as well. Ick. And we have Mercury sextiling Uranus or Uranus, however you want to pronounce it. Just don't call it late for lunch. And again, how is learning to take care of yourself and helping to create interest and excitement in your being your authentic self and being at peace with who you are and finding strength in being your authentic self? So a little self-care helps heal the core, helps heal your authentic identity. And this can help gain strength in your individuality. These new insights helps you to see yourself more clearly and be at peace with it. The shadow being mentally defensive can lead to a false, that Uranus is that false individuality, whether you're over the top and acting out to provoke a reaction from people, or you're selling out to fit in. And that's not providing, that's actually providing weakness. It's providing is just being rigid, stuck in a rut. It can be acting out like a bull in a china shop too. But being that mental defensiveness leads to loss of individuality and stuck in a rut of being someone who you are not. Be careful with that. Thursday, I put this in there. I don't know why I didn't do that with Mercury because it fit. The shoe fit there. But Venus is in Aries, and during this transit, it will go into Taurus. So we'll touch on that. But is in a sextile to the North Node in Pisces. And anytime it's sextile to the North Node, it's going to be trying to the South Node. Anytime something's aspecting one of the nodes, it's going to be aspecting the other. Those two work hand in hand. So having the courage in your relationships and being able to be with people and be yourself with people, that is helping you, find your destiny or find your purpose in life at this time and be at peace with it. A key thing to understanding the North Node is understanding where it is, in your birth chart and understanding that purpose. And I'm one of the few astrologers that actually does read the nodes in the transit chart. Reason being is because that's the evolution of your soul's intention. Understanding, and when people come to me and they say, what's my life's purpose? I do look at Saturn because that's always a great lesson to learn, but the nodes of the moon, very important. The North Node is an evolutionary intention to achieve. The South Node is an evolutionary intention to release. So working with other people and having the courage to work with other people and then finding peace and strength in your relationships helps you to fulfill and find peace and understand this life's purpose from a higher perspective. The shadow, fear in relationships, trying to control people, being temperamental, or being shallow and superficial out of fear or laziness leaves you feeling unfulfilled and purposeless in life at this time. So this can wipe out your ability to become more of who you really are. And also on Thursday, it's kind of interesting the way this one happened, both on the same day. For some reason, when I've been doing them earlier, that they've been falling on different days, and Venus decided to do them both on the same day. Life happens. So Venus in Aries, trining the North Node, are sextiling the North Node, trining the South Node. This is a release. So as you're having the courage in your relationships, you're aware of how you hold yourself back with what pointless drama. Leo, South Node in Leo is that pointless drama that people engage in and just garbage that we put out in the world that we don't need to. And ideally, when you become aware of it, the goal is to stop doing it. So what type of drama is it good for you to let go of in your relationships? How are you finding the strength to do this with others? And then how are you finding, as you do it and you release it, how are you finding peace and strength and stability in those relationships? When you let the bogus drama go and you're finding the peace and the strength in the relationships that really matter to you, you don't need the drama and you can let it go. Being shallow or superficial, manipulative, etc., can lead to rehashing past problems, staying stuck in meaningless relationships. We all know that person who is like, I can never have a good relationship with people. Let me tell you about the problem I had with my girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, husband, whatever. And they keep rehashing our children problems and they keep rehashing the past. That's in a shadow. And literally you're ruining relationships when you do that. And just be aware of that's what's happening. On Thursday, or no, on Wednesday also still. No, that's on Thursday. Blah. Thursday, I got the toolbar across the top. Can I move that over to the side here? No, it's not letting me flip it over to the side. I wish it would. Still on Thursday, the moon enters Cancer. The moon rules Cancer. So it's emotional self-care, learning to take care of your emotional needs, paying attention to them, meeting them, opening up to healing yourself. And by healing, physician, heal yourself. And when you heal yourself, you can heal others. But this is a time of rest. I would say focus more on healing yourself, taking care of yourself, and nurturing yourself emotionally. And the shadow here is whining and refusing to rest and becoming defensive or just being emotionally exhausted, just pushing yourself too hard and too far. Interestingly, this is the last day of work for school for me this week. Be interesting to see what that day is like. Oops. Did I advance? Yes, I did. So Friday, we have Mercury in Cancer trining Saturn. Yeah, that Saturn Neptune is going to get a lot of work. But yeah, Mercury trining Saturn, learning, how self-care, how is this help, we talked about Saturn and maturing in your spiritual practices. How is your self-care, you learning to take care of yourself, resting, relaxing, helping you to mature in your spirituality? I think that's good to learn. So learning self-care, meeting your needs, helping you mature and finding peace and serenity. Time spent in silence can help you connect on deeper levels and grow in your awareness and grow in your skill. I think skill is definitely a word that works well with Saturn. So there's that. But being defensive, rigid in your emotionals, in your beliefs and what you think, can lead to fear and despair and a desire to hide away from imaginary threats. Leave you caught in a mental prison. And yeah, I think Saturn in Pisces, I think the best definition of that is legalism. Spiritual legalism, where you come up with a set of rules for yourself and you try to impose them on others. Nick. And we also have Mercury in Cancer trining Neptune. So how is self-care, mental self-care, helping to make you more aware of your spiritual sense and your spiritual practices? So learning, and Mercury in Cancer can be time to pull back and be alone. So being alone, learning to be alone and finding inner peace can lead to higher insights. These insights can lead to healing breakthroughs and also breakthroughs in perception and understanding. So yeah, I think that's really good there. And the shadow here, that being mentally defensive can lead to becoming lost in illusion and confusion. Also, worry and nervousness lead to desire to escape from illusions that exist only in your mind. So yeah, that becoming mentally defensive can lead to misperception of what's going on and create problems. And on Friday night, Venus enters Taurus. So it's finding peace, stability, and strength in your relationships. Venus rules Taurus. So this is a homecoming. This is a very good thing for Venus, spending time at home. It's one of the two signs that Venus rules, the other one being Libra. But finding peace and calm in your life, in your relationships, and also through art and music. We always talk about Venus being relationships, and I think that's a disservice to what Venus really does cover. Venus is about relationships and about romance. It also is about art and music and creativity and fun and recreation. So how are all those things, how can all those things provide strength and stability for you, fortify you? Um, Also, it can help all these things like the music and the arts can help you see the beauty that's all around you. Let go of what's unpleasant in order to make room for what is. How do you have fun? Focus on that for a little while. It'll be a good thing. And the shadow, being slick, manipulative, lazy, and stuck in past practices, has you feeling empty and unfulfilling. You're stuck in a rut, going nowhere fast. I used to go to a fundamentalist church, and the one guy used to say, "A rut is a grave with the two short ends dug out a long way." So it can lead to laziness, attempts to manipulate others, and ruining relationships. Doesn't bring peace. It's also a possibility of being that bull in a china shop and ruining relationships in a different way. Saturday, the moon enters Leo. Um, Emotionally learn to express yourself, be seen, pay attention to opportunities to stand up and share with others. It can be fulfilling. Um, and Leo is learning to be seen and learning to be appreciated. It is that emotional desire to feel appreciated by others. In the shadow, that emotional self can be playing to the crowd and not being your real self, or trying to hide away. And either one of those leave you feeling empty and exhausted because you're burning yourself out doing it. And a relatively big transit here. Mercury in Cancer opposite Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. So we did talk about Mercury in Cancer, that learning to nurture and care for yourself and rest. Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto is deciding he wants to show everybody how to play. He'll be doing that in no uncertain terms shortly. Pluto is the planet of transformation and deep healing. And Capricorn, it's doing the work of deep healing and that work of deep transformation. So you're reflecting on how is this, how is what you're learning about healthcare helping you to do the work of transformation? Is it helping you to do that deep transformation, that deep inner transformation? And knowing when to rest can help in reflection and reclaiming what has been thought of as lost. Some of my readings on Pluto say Pluto can be deep soul wounds, and as Pluto works through its transits, this is a recovery of the soul, a recovery of that type of deep energy. And the moon is also thought of to be as the soul as well. But this is really important, and that reflection. It's a time of reflection, a time of balancing. So it's a time to balance the learning and the balancing, the working on mental healing and what you're learning to heal, and balancing that against the deep transformative work and reflecting. Is what I'm learning with self-care, how can that help me with my inner work? And that's the end of my tea. It is really brutally hot. Now, the shadow here, we said, is that person not wanting to heal and being defensive, mentally defensive, trying to hide away. And the shadow of Pluto, Pluto gets to be deeply wounding. Grab my notes here. My mind just slipped. Nihilism, escapism, cynicism, deep bitterness, deep anger. Some people call it the existential crisis. But this is that those are this deep, dark night of the soul that you feel is never going to end. And in Capricorn, it can be isolated and alone and a bit of a control freak. And this becomes a power struggle. Being that defensive person that just leave me alone and just trying to control and micromanage everybody. And it just turns into a mess and possible for deeper wounding. So let's see, what do I have here? Yeah, being mentally defensive causes you to get lost in darkness and despair. Worry and nervousness can feel draining and lead to emptiness and feeling broken. Yeah, bad. Sunday, Neptune in Pisces, sextiles Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. Yeah, we've had a lot of the planets we deal with usually during these weekly readings are the inner planets, and the outer planets do show up and they go on for an incredibly long time. But these are the deep character creations, I think is the best way to say it. So we did talk about and we did share Neptune in Pisces, learning to be present. Don't just do something, be present. And I do like to say that Neptune, both Neptune and Pisces, Neptune rules Pisces, so this is really fortuitous here. Um, is your spirituality and being aware of your spirituality and being present in your spirituality. And that sextile is an excitement and an interest in that deep inner transformational work. And Pluto retro and reflection, Pluto right now is in retrograde, so it's reflecting on the work it's doing. So this is an interest in reflecting on that deep inner spiritual work. Now, I know I'm not saying religion. Religion is the dark side of this. This is you making up all these rules and imposing them on yourself and other people. But we're talking about that. How is your spirituality and being present with your spirituality, present with your higher self, and aware and being able to understand things from a higher perspective, helping you with that deep inner transformational work? The shadow here, slipping into illusion and confusion and delusion, can lead to a collapse into cynicism, nihilism, deep feelings of emptiness. This would be an existential spiritual crisis in spades. Um, Denial of defeat is possible only in a self-created fantasy. This would be like I said, this would be a deep existential spiritual crisis that you're trying to hide and deny. Ick. This begins on June 19th. August 4th, Neptune goes retrograde. And this transit, at least, I think, will be over on October 9th. I have not looked into next year to see if this repeats, but we'll just focus on this year now. So ideally, this is, like I said, this is going to be going on for a long time. This is deep spiritual work. Embrace it. So thank you for that. Thank you for listening. I think I've gone longer than I wanted to. But do follow me on Facebook, Instagram. These two I like to take daily deep dives where I choose a transit of the day and explore it more deeply. You're watching my YouTube channel, which I do the weekly transits on. These corporations here make billions of dollars on your data and not sharing much with you, even if you are getting something. Digital Soul Space is I call it the spiritual sanctuary of the internet. Hosted by Mighty Networks, your data, you own it, you control it, you tell them how and what they can do with it, whether they can share it or not. You control your data. They're very big on privacy. There are 4 great moderators. I do astrology on there. There's other astrologers on there as well. But if you're interested in crystals or tarot or different oracle decks or different types of spirituality, or you just want to talk with people in a troll-free zone where everyone who's willing, there's no, and we had this conversation the other day again, everybody has something to share. There's no real quote unquote experts. We all share our insights, and people are like, wow, I asked this question, I got answers from all these different places, and it all helps to make sense. It's a really great, friendly community. Let me jump to my site. Here's the site where you order readings. The first set of keys I talk about is understanding your birth chart. Quick 6, if you want to see how your chart changes, this is a very affordable way to do it. I hit 6 key points, and you get a recording with that. First set of keys, understanding your birth chart. Your birth chart is your birth contract. It's who you came here to become, and I help you understand that. I look at all the planets in the signs in the houses. Past life reading. It's off of your birth. This is the chart that's buried in the chart. It's based on the nodes of the moon. The south node is the past life. It's karma you came here to release, and the north node tells you how to release it. Quick pick combines those two into one reading. That's fun. It's always interesting. Your second set of keys is understanding your sky. This is your horoscope. So this is transiting to transiting, but this is also transiting to natal. Life cycle looks at transiting to, looks at, for example, transiting Jupiter to natal Jupiter, transiting Saturn to natal Saturn. Look at the transiting planet to its natal position, and what are the lessons, the big lessons you need to be focusing on. And that's a year, and the yearly horoscopes can be any 12 months in a row. The yearly horoscope, I look at the big picture of the year. I look at the major defining transits. For example, you heard about the Pluto Neptune. I would definitely be talking about that. And this is planet in a sign in a house. So this is any 12 months in a row. Quarterly horoscope is any 3 months in a row. And I look at the transits on a more local level, I should say. I will cover the ones that do hit in the yearly, but they're small. There are ones that are more fit in the 3-month block that are important. I will talk about those and share those. The monthly, I like to do new moon to new moon. There are people who like first of the month to the last of the month. Either which way, this is 1 month in a row, and I look at the transits that affect you personally, the major transits that affect you personally in that 1 month period, however you're defining it. Sign changes when those happen. Look at the lunar cycle, and then I also look at other transits that would be important that help out. And then I have packages that combine these, and these packages have a 10% discount built in. Back up to the top. When you come here, you're going to get a pop-up, or you can click on the subscribe. That's my weekly newsletter. All I need is an email. If you want to schedule anything, that's through the services. If you have a specific question, you can schedule 30 through an hour and a half long on the scheduling, and we sit down and we talk about it and we share that. And whatever you ask, I like to know the questions in advance, and that way when we're talking, I'm not doing the work in front of you. I've got everything mapped out perfectly, or best I can feel comfortable with. Hello, Kit. Come on. This is your cat. This is your cat commercial. Kit just jumped up on my lap to be with me. Hey, want to say hi to everybody? That's your cat commercial. Scheduling is you want to pick a date and a time. Services are doing the order. Blog is where you will find all the readings that I do. If I'm in an event, which has been hard to do because I've been back in school. But if I do go to events, that's where I do post them. Let's go back here. Nope. I want current slide. I'm also on Mural, which is Meet in Real Life. That's my handle. That's if you want to contact me that day and you have another way of doing it. So thank you very much for watching this. I apologize this went longer than I wanted it to, but there's a lot to unpack this week. Do like, follow, share, sign up for the newsletter, and remember, in the visible sky, your life does change. Thank you very much. Have the best week possible.